Hi everyone, welcome to May 11th, and hopefully your parents received the learning plan for this week, May 11th through 15th. Again, we are in reading, and that learning plan will let you know the daily activities to complete for both reading and for writing. And for writing, it's assigned writing prompts. So for this week, we're going to look at and explore different works from different poets. And so Monday, Emily Dickinson, Tuesday, Edgar Allan Poe, Wednesday, Maya Angelou, Thursday, Langston Hughes, and Friday, Pablo Neruda. I'm going to combine for today Emily Dickinson and just directions on your assignment for Edgar Allan Poe for Tuesday. So first, let's look at Emily Dickinson. She was born December 10th, 1830 in Amherst, Massachusetts, and she died May 15th, 1886. And again, she is known as an American poet. At the end of this pre-recorded Zoom, I am going to ask you to come back to BrainPop, sign in, and you'll type Emily Dickinson in right here. And I'm going to ask you to take the graded quiz. And then you can also look at the other different links to the site, including related reading. But first, let's go ahead and look at the video.
What you doing? A ladybug whose red and black wings would make a perfect snack for one who has an empty pantry. I'm talking about the praying mantis. It's, nice. Dear Tim and Moby, we're reading Emily Dickinson in school, but her poems are a little weird. Can you help me make sense of them? Thanks, Becca. Emily Dickinson's poetry can be mysterious, almost like a riddle. Her lines and verses are short, with a natural style that's almost chatty. These qualities give her one of the most distinctive voices in American poetry. The major poets of her day wrote epics, long pieces that tell a story. While these guys looked outward, writing about history and culture, Dickinson wrote lyrics, poems about the inner life of thoughts and feelings. Yeah, and that's not the only area where she went her own way. Women in those days were strongly encouraged to get married and raise families. And though she had offers, Dickinson never accepted them. Instead, she focused on her work, composing nearly 2,000 poems in just a few decades. On the surface, her poems are about everyday subjects. A dream she had, something she saw in the garden, an emotion she felt. But once you dig a little, there's a world of meaning waiting in those lines. Okay, listen to this one. A bird came down the walk. He did not... Oh, reading poems aloud can help you understand them. Plus, you'll hear all the sounds and rhythms. In poetry, those things are just as important as the meaning. A bird came down the walk. He did not know I saw. He bit an angleworm in halves and ate the fellow raw. And then he drank a dew from a convenient grass, and then hopped sideways to the wall to let a beetle pass. This poem's meter, or rhythm, is really strong. Da-dum, da-dum, da-dum. That's called iambic meter, and here it sounds kind of like a bird hopping. Or maybe it's his nervous heartbeat. He glanced with rapid eyes that hurried all around. They looked like frightened beads, I thought. He stirred his velvet head. No, there's nothing cute about this bird. He's a killer who devours a worm, then washes it down with a drink. And check out that image. Eyes like frightened beads. That's a simile, a poetic comparison that uses like or as. It's also a personification, giving human qualities to an object. Beads aren't something you'd normally think of as frightened, but you can totally imagine those creepy little eyes. Let's continue, shall we? Like one in danger, cautious, I offered him a crumb, and he unrolled his feathers and rode him softer home. Yeah, it's not clear who feels more in danger, the speaker or the bird. But the tension is broken when it escapes into the sky. Notice how this stanza ends. He rode him softer home. Softer than what? Dickinson is setting us up to expect another simile, and she spends the entire last stanza making it. Then oars divide the ocean, two silver for a seam, or butterflies off banks of noon leap, plashless as they swim. Whoa. We could spend an hour unpacking that. We start with a straight-up comparison. Flying is like rowing in a silvery sea, only softer. Then, it's almost like the speaker gets carried away with the whole water idea. The sky transforms into a river or pond with butterflies diving into it. The edges of this pond are made of time itself, banks of noon. It's like a dream image. It doesn't quite make sense, but it's so vivid. Those last two lines are a metaphor, a more direct comparison than a simile. Flying isn't like swimming. It is swimming through time or existence. Good ear. Once the bird's off the ground, the meter smooths out. It's still iambic, but it flows more like conversation, or like water. No, Dickinson knew that crumb and home aren't perfect rhymes. That's an example of slant rhyme, one of her favorite devices. With slant rhyme, words only have to share similar sounds. It let Dickinson experiment with language, and it calls our attention to her choices. She wants us to notice those words. So they might hold clues to what's going on with this poem. I think it might be about a person's spiritual journey. His time on earth is filled with suffering and fear. When he takes off, maybe that's about dying. He leaves the pain of life behind as he travels to his spiritual home. Notice how the bird is absent from the last stanza? He's been replaced by a butterfly, a clue that some change has taken place. And the language is all about stuff that leaves no trace, an oar that makes no crease in the water, and a dive that makes no splash. Yeah, it's like she leaves us with a big mystery. What happens when we die? Those kinds of questions run through her work. Maybe writing poetry was her way of getting closer to an answer. It's true, she spent most of her adulthood alone. She was a recluse, rarely leaving her simple bedroom in Amherst, Massachusetts. Were you listening to that poem? I highly doubt she ever got bored. She used that space to let her imagination run free. Many of her poems are based on things she saw in her family's garden. She published just a handful of poems in local papers. We're really lucky to have the rest of them. Before she died, Emily made her sister promise to burn her letters. So, in 1886, that's just what Lavinia Dickinson did. Well, she had to keep her word. But Lavinia also found a locked chest in her sister's room. Inside were 40 handmade booklets filled with poetry. Lavinia became obsessed with publishing them. The first volume came out 4 years later and was an instant success. It went through 11 printings, and critics loved it. She was immediately recognized as a major American poet, and her voice feels just as fresh today as it did back in 1890. Do what? Oh, okay. I could also burn them right now. Are you sure you don't want me to burn them now? I just meant that you'll probably outlive me.
All right, so like I said, after you watch this, you can come back to Brain Pop, type in Emily Dickinson, and I'm going to ask you to take the graded quiz and then email the results to me. You can also take a look at the related reading. And then this section, again, just gives you more information about Emily Dickinson. PBS Learning has a poem by her. And it's called I Started Early, Took My Dog by Emily Dickinson. And so this video segment from Poetry Everywhere uses animation to illustrate Emily Dickinson's poem, I Started Early, Took My Dog. In writing about the changing nature of the sea, Dickinson's poem explores themes of adventure, escape, and the depths of the self.
I started early, took my dog, and visited the sea. The mermaids in the basement came out to look at me. And frigates in the upper floor extended hempen hands, presuming me to be a mouse aground upon the sands. But no man moved me till the tide went past my simple shoe, and past my apron, and my belt, and past my bodice, too, and made as he would eat me up, as wholly as a dew upon a dandelion sleeve. And then I started, too. And he followed, close behind. I felt his silver heel upon my ankle. Then my shoes would overflow with pearl. Until we met the solid town. No man he seemed to know, and bowing with a mighty look at me, the sea withdrew.
I'd mentioned before that your learning plan that I emailed to your parents tells you what activities to complete each day. And you'll see next to lessons in your packet, it will tell you see packet 4. So hopefully today you received in the mail packet 4. If not, it should be coming soon. So for today's lesson, one worksheet will be Emily Dickinson, analyze it. Here it says, Emily Dickinson is known for her vivid use of simile and metaphor. For each example, identify the two things being compared. Describe the sense or impression you get from each comparison. Your reading assignment will be to read Autumn by Emily Dickinson and answer the questions that follow. And honestly, I can't remember if I put this in your packet. So I did put it on ReadWorks, so you can go online on readworks.org to complete this lesson as well. You can pick either if it's in the packet, if I put it in there. If I forgot, then you can go to the ReadWorks site. So again, this information of what to complete today is in your learning plan listed on today's learning plan for reading 8. For tomorrow, what you're going to do is you on your own are going to research Edgar Allan Poe by going on Brain Pop. So Edgar Allan Poe was born January 19th, 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts. He died October 7th, 1849. Edgar Allan Poe was an American writer, poet, editor, and literary critic. Poe is best known for his poetry and short stories. So tomorrow I'm going to ask you to go into Brain Pop and you're going to type in Edgar Allan Poe. You'll watch the movie and then take the quiz and email me the graded results. Also, you can look at related reading to find out more information about Edgar Allan Poe. As always, please make sure you're trying your best. That's all I would like you to do, just try your best. If you have any questions, you can email me. I can email a response back to you, or I can call you. I hope that you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.